Welcome back, besties. I hope you are doing well. To my loyal subscribers, I truly appreciate you. Hiding out in her office pushing papers around with no direction was getting annoying, Chastity thought. She needed to get a grip and handle her business. A week of this was enough. She made sure it was a whole hour past her usual quitting time before she left the safety of her office. Debbie had already gone for the evening. She grabbed her handbag, locked up and made for the long corridor to the parking lot. It was Thursday, and she was already planning her evening. She bumped into someone and she opened her mouth to apologize, and all the air whooshed out of her lungs. She'd forgotten how to inhale. Seeing her distress, Devlin Wade grasped her arm. "Ms. Michaels, are you okay? You look pale. Would you like to sit down?" he asked her. Chastity shook him off and assured him that she was fine. "I wasn't expecting to see anyone back here is all. This path to the lot is restricted to mall personnel." He held the door open for her, and she preceded him out of the building. She completely ignored him and walked to her car, got in and started it, and drove off. Later on, Chas sat in her tub up to her neck in bubbles. She felt tranquil and mellow. Whoever invented the bubble bath should be given some sort of prize, she thought. She reached down to pick up the glass of wine on the side of the tub and took a sip. She didn't make it a habit to drink, but she needed to relax, and wine did that for her nicely. She got out of the tub and took her time drying off. The mirror on the opposite wall allowed her to see her body. Her skin was the color of a ripe peach. It was something she'd inherited from her mother's Hawaiian heritage. Her eyes were hazel like her dad's, and her hair was long black and wavy. Being a fitness expert, she knew that she was in shape and healthy. After applying her routine lotions, she got ready for bed. The time on her cell phone said it was only 10 o'clock. She opted to listen to some music. She rummaged through her collection of CDs and found her favorite artist. Soon the living room filled with Luther Vandross's soulful voice. She poured herself another glass of wine, telling herself that she was a responsible adult and wouldn't be overdoing it. Soon the stress of the week started to melt away. She loosened up and upped the volume on her stereo and swayed to the music. 15 minutes later, a loud bang on her door startled her. Bolstered by the alcohol in her system, she turned off the stereo and marched to the door, ready to give Mr. Bernstein a very big piece of her mind. She came into contact with Devlin Wade, who wore a pair of jeans, a sweater, and light blue jacket, and a smile that nearly choked the life out of her. Instead, she went into a coughing fit, and with every cough, spilled a few drops of her wine. Devlin took the glass from her and pushed her back into the apartment. "Try to take a deep breath," he said, pounding her back. "Ugh, stop it. You're making it worse," she said after she could breathe again. "I'm sorry," he apologized and stepped back, giving her room. Chastity looked up at him with venom in her eyes. "What in God's name are you doing here?" "I was in the neighborhood and stopped by to say hello," he answered. "Wrong. You were supposed to forget my address and never come back here," she reminded him. Devlin was at a loss. He stood there speechless. Did she know that she barely wore that gown thing she had on? He gamely handed her back the glass of wine. She took it from him and opened her mouth to say something and changed her mind. She walked away and then turned to face him. She gulped down the rest of the wine as if to gain some courage. He watched her put the empty glass down. "Was there something you wanted, Mr. Wade, that couldn't keep until business hours?" "As a matter of fact, there is something I need to discuss with you, but I don't think you are in the proper frame of mind. Do you always drink yourself into a stupor every night?" He realized that he'd gone too far. She'd balled her hands into fists. Chaz looked at him and then walked away to the kitchen and then returned back to the living room. "I should be furious with you for barging into my home and accusing me of being a drunk, but I'm not. What I do in the privacy of my own home is my business. I don't care what you think. I don't normally drink and never into a stupor, and incidentally, I am not drunk. Today was a stressful day, and I wanted to relax. I also want you to understand that I will no longer be this nice to you if you ever show up on my doorstep again," she said in a slur-free voice. She pointed to the door. Devlin looked at her and gulped. He was almost positive she was intoxicated. He stood very still and looked at her with eyes that took in everything. "This isn't easy for me to say. The thing is that I haven't been able to think clearly ever since I set eyes on you. Then when I saw you eating alone at the restaurant, I wanted to be your dinner partner. I was angry that some man had the nerve to stand you up. At the club, I find myself looking for ways to casually bump into you. When I thought you couldn't do any more to torture me, you opened the door wearing a dream. I can't fight you anymore, and he said. Chaz was speechless. She knew there were women who would give anything to hear a man say what Devlin just said to her, but she didn't know how to respond to it, and it scared her. Boy, I sure would like to hear you say something hard. You must understand that as flattering as your speech is, I don't know what to say. I'll be honest with you. I do find you attractive, but I have a policy that I fully expect to keep about dating clients. She turned her back to him because looking at him was suddenly painful. Devlin's arms had found their way around her, and he pulled her close. She could feel his breath on her neck, and when he started kissing the sensitive areas on her neck, Chaz knew that if he weren't holding her, she would fall down. Of course, her body betrayed her, and she relaxed against him. Slowly, he turned her to face him, and she couldn't stop him. She lifted her eyes to his. She could see how his pupils dilated and the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Devlin, you have to go, she heard herself say. She raised her hand to touch his face, and he caught it and kissed her palm. She closed her eyes. Look at me and tell me to go, he challenged her. At her silence, he pulled her closer until their foreheads touched. I've only known you a few days, but it seems my heart has recognized you. It's been waiting a lifetime for you. Now that I've found you, how can you ask me to go? Chaz had never heard such words, and all she wanted to do was melt. This man who just came out of a very long relationship and probably was on the rebound. She didn't doubt his feelings. She just didn't think he could feel so much for her so soon after Nicole. If nothing else ever came of this, she would be satisfied with just a kiss. She pulled back and looked into his eyes. There was so much emotion in them. As gentle as she could, she touched his face and smiled at him. Devlin, I need you to listen to me. I am single by choice because I have an ideal. The kind of man and the type of love I want was a model I grew up with. I want what my parents had. Their love was special, and I want that too. I find you very attractive, and I could throw caution to the wind and have a fling, but I know I'd end up hurt. So, I'm sorry, I can't do this. She pushed more at him, and he released his hold. She stepped back. He stepped back and took a seat on the single chair. Chastity, I made a mistake with Nicole. We didn't really take the time to get to know each other. We rode on emotion with no foundation. What I'm saying is that we rushed in without an anchor. I'm older and wiser now, and I find that I need that anchor. I have no intentions of hurting you, Chastity Michaels. I would be honored if you gave me the chance to prove that the love you say you can't find is alive and well in me. Chaz's heart leapt in her chest. How can you be so sure you wouldn't break my heart, or that I wouldn't break yours? I'm sure if you could ask your parents, they would tell you that in life, there are no guarantees. You just have to take a chance and make a choice. He stood up again to stand in front of her. He reached for her. Her arms crept up timidly until they were around his shoulders. Her fingers strayed to his hair. It was thick and wavy, and her fingers gloried in its fullness. She fixed her gaze somewhere beyond his head. Look at me, he whispered. He cradled her head. Her mouth went dry because she knew he was going to kiss her. She had never been kissed the way she knew he was going to kiss her, and she was sure that her timid responses would do nothing but show him how inexperienced she was. The kiss went on forever. She didn't know how he was doing it, but every part of her being wanted in on the action. When he released her lips, she found that she wasn't the only one breathing hard. Devlin, I have been saving myself for the right man, and I am not so innocent that I can't tell when there is a lot of sexual tension between us. How do we see each other without giving into it until it is right for the both of us? She asked him. I didn't think you noticed, he said with a smile. I want you to understand one thing. What I've said to you tonight is straight from my heart. I think I've found my soulmate. Sex is going to be wonderful between us, but isn't an issue right now. I want to do this right and slow until we're both sure. Those were very mature and responsible words, and they made her feel that maybe it could all be true, but she was still afraid of getting hurt. In this day and age, she was old-fashioned, and normally it didn't bother her. The few men she dated in the past were jerks who thought taking a woman out meant going to bed afterwards. She looked at him and found him watching her expectantly. Before she could say anything, she wanted just one more kiss. She closed the space between them again, and shyly she put her arms around his shoulders again. Would you kiss me again? I just want to make sure that I still like it. And she pulled his head to hers. He kissed her. It was all-consuming. Yes, she thought. I still like it. Devlin pulled away reluctantly. It's late and we both have work in the morning. I just need to know if I could see you tomorrow night. Just dinner and some talking, he promised. Pick me up at 7, she told him. I really have to go, but I don't want to. That thing you're wearing is driving me mad, and I don't think I'm strong enough right now to discuss anything else about tomorrow. I'll pick you up at 7. Chaz took a step toward him and he took one back. The pained expression on his face said it all. After he left, Chaz went about turning off lights. In her bedroom, she caught her reflection in the mirror. Her nightgown was ivory against her exotic skin tone, lacy, leaving almost nothing to the imagination. She laughed. She was scaring him as much as he was scaring her. She fell asleep, trying to figure out how she was going to violate her company rules without being a hypocrite, and Debbie would have a field day. As usual, Chastity was up before the alarm went off, and she jumped out of bed eager to start the day. The sun was shining and she had a mile to run. Quickly, she put her hair in a long braid and threw on her running outfit and was out of the apartment full of energy. When she returned, she was still smiling. There was still a lot of day to get through before she would see Devlin, and the more she did, the closer to her date she would get, she thought giddily. When Chastity walked into her office, it was business as usual. She wore a dress that told the world she was a professional, but very much woman. She had opted for the dress instead of the company uniform and hoped wouldn't tip Debbie off, but as she walked past her desk, Debbie whistled. Boss lady, you look like $1,000,000. What's the occasion? You like it? I thought that if I looked a bit more professional, I could command more respect around here, she replied. I think all you are going to get is whistles, especially from the men around here. You don't have any meetings today, so confess? You've got a date, guessed Debbie. No, just an appointment I need to look intimidating for. Chaz lied, hoping there wasn't a bolt of lightning with her name on it. She ducked into her office, hoping Debbie wouldn't follow. Her telephone rang just as she sat down at her desk. She ignored it and began leafing through the invoices she had started the day before. Debbie's voice came through the intercom telling her that the call was for her. Hello, this is Chastity Michaels. How may I help you? She spoke into the receiver. I called you this morning, but you were probably out on your run. I just wanted to say good morning and to hear your voice again, Devlin said in a voice that sent tremors throughout Chastity's body. Hi, I'm sorry I missed your call. It would have been nice to hear your voice too. Are you still home or at the office? She asked. She could hear noise in the background. Neither. I'm calling from my car. I just came back from seeing the house I'm going to buy. Just as soon as everything is final, I'd like you to see it. Listen, traffic is getting heavy now, babe. See you later. And he hung up. Debbie chose that moment to come into the office. She stopped and stared at Chaz. If I had known that he was going to affect you that way, I would have taken a message, she teased. What can I do for you, Debbie? Debbie sat down on the chair in front of the desk and crossed her arms, shaking her blonde head. There's something you're not telling me. Come on, the jig is up. Out with it, she urged. Chaz looked at her friend and shrugged. Nothing is going on. Mr. Wade was just being his usual annoying self. Why did you put the call through anyway? Well, that's because he called me Babe and Sean's pet name for me is Cupcake. His phone voice is wicked. Why didn't you tell me, Chaz? He's a major hunk, Debbie said, fanning her face. Debbie, please don't make a big deal out of it. We're just talking. We haven't even gone out yet. Look, as soon as I am comfortable talking about him, I swear I'll tell you everything. Okay? My God, Chaz, he scares you, doesn't he? When a man does that, he is it. Just a bit. Debbie stood up, sensing that her friend needed some distance, and went back to her desk. Devlin came for her exactly at 7. Wow, you look wonderful, he said in that voice that did crazy things to her heart rate. You're not so bad yourself, she answered. He took her to Tourmaline, and she didn't know how to feel about it. Devlin was pleasant throughout dinner, and she enjoyed his company. When he drove her back home, he was a complete gentleman. He kissed her at the door and wished her a good night. And just like that, they developed a mutually satisfying relationship. On weekends, she helped him furnish his new home. She took him to all the antique shops where he watched her haggle for low prices. Devlin flourished under the recommended care of his nutritionist and exercise coaches. 3 months later, Devlin received a full bill of health from Dr. Kinney, and on his own, he stopped smoking. As promised, they took it slow and got to know each other. Devlin told her about growing up in the Midwest. He spoke of his father who was so strict, he avoided him as much as possible. So, how did you get interested in weaving? In staying out of my father's way, I had gotten a part-time job at the tailor shop. He taught me everything he knew. When not in school, I'd be with him, and I found that I liked it. The rest is history, as they say. The staff had acknowledged her relationship, and according to Debbie, unanimously approved. Devlin had started to suggest that they take their relationship to the next step. Chaz obsessed about it and had started to monitor where he touched her. She started pushing away if it got hot and heavy. Devlin was starting to get impatient. A few weeks later, her car was in the shop and he'd picked her up. They had dinner at his house, and he was loving all evening, and she knew that he'd been planning something. Chaz, I don't want you to feel threatened or afraid. I promised we would take things slow, and it's a promise I intended to keep. Obviously, you are a very passionate woman, and there isn't a man alive who wouldn't want a woman as warm and loving as you. But baby, I'm nearing the end of my patience, Devlin said. They were sitting in the living room she helped him decorate. Chaz felt her heart flutter in her chest. This was it. This was the moment of truth. This was where she proved to him that she loved him and commit to him. Devlin studied her. He could tell that she was debating whether she will sleep with him or not. He wanted her, and he knew that she wanted him so. What was the problem? She looked up at him and smiled warmly. It's kind of hard to explain, but when I'm with you, I feel like I'm handing you the reins to my life. I've been alone for a long time, and I don't know how to commit to you without losing myself in the process. Oh, for the love of God, woman, is this about control again? What is it with you? Do you really believe you would lose yourself if we sleep together? That's it, isn't it? Well, honey, you can keep your precious virginity and your control because I don't want any parts of it, he bellowed and stomped up the stairs. A few minutes later, he came back down with his car keys and her things. She hadn't moved from where she had been sitting and only looked up when he dropped her purse on the floor. Come on, I'll take you home, he said coldly. She stood up and slipped her feet into her shoes and followed him into the night. Neither spoke as they neared her building. He was afraid if he said anything, he'd say something he wouldn't be able to take back. She was afraid she would break in front of him, so when he stopped the car, she grabbed her things and ran out of the car as if she could outrun the hurt she felt. He took off as soon as she was safely inside. Chaz felt numb, queasy, and upset all at the same time. At times like this, running was her go-to remedy. She changed into her running gear and left the apartment. It was late, but she didn't care. She ran. Devlin cursed under his breath and turned the car around. He just reached her building when he spied her running out. At first, he thought she'd seen him, but it became apparent that she hadn't. She ran until she came to a dead-end street and then turned around to go back the way she came. He watched her run with desperation, and he felt that this was something so private, something she had to work out herself. He stayed with her to make sure she was safe. The tears she had been running away from flowed down her cheeks as she neared her building. Her stomach hurt and she felt nauseous. She rushed through the front door, taking the stairs, hardly noticing Devlin. He followed her upstairs. Her apartment door was ajar, and he poked his head in before going inside, in case she was lying in wait for him. He heard her being sick in the bathroom and entered the apartment. When she came out, she was surprised to see him. "Are you okay?" he asked, keeping his distance. "Yes, I'm fine. How did you get in?" "You didn't close the door properly. I've been following you run all over Queens. Are you sure you're okay?" "You don't look so good," Devlin said, taking in her pale face. "I'm fine. Why were you following me?" Chaz felt like dirt, but she wasn't going to let him know that. "I came back to make sure you were all right. I wanted to apologize for the things I said." And when she just stood there looking at him, he asked if she wanted him to leave. He approached her slowly, and she stepped back. He knew her answer then. "Well, Chastity Michaels, it has been an interesting thing we had. Have a nice life," he said, and walked to the door. "Wait, I just need more time to feel comfortable." She reached for his arm, and he yanked it out of her grasp and walked out the door. Goodbye, Chaz. He closed the door softly behind him. Chaz turned calmly and walked back into the bathroom to vomit. The rest of the night was spent in agony. She cried and slept only to awaken an hour later to cry again. By morning, she knew she wouldn't be able to go into work. She felt awful. It wasn't just the breakup with Devlin. She really was sick. Her head ached, and so did her stomach, and she was feverish. She tried to sit up and had to rush to the bathroom. She called Debbie at home to let her know that she wasn't coming in, that she was sick and to cancel any appointments planned for the day. Debbie asked if she should come by later, but Chaz told her that it probably was a 24-hour thing. She promised to go to the doctor as she wasn't feeling better. Chaz, being the person that she was, wasn't going to let a bug get the best of her. She ignored the pangs in her stomach and fixed herself a full breakfast. 5 minutes after drinking some orange juice, she got sick again. She crawled into bed feeling like a newborn kitten. She cried because she was sick, and she cried because she lost the only man she would ever love. By 4 p.m., her temperature had climbed to 103. She forced herself to drink some tea and aspirin, but couldn't keep it down long enough for them to take effect. Saturday came and went with no effort from her. She felt too weak to drink, so she didn't. Her head hurt too much to move, so she didn't. And the one time she tried was because she answered the phone, and the sound threatened to split her head open. "Debbie," she strained to speak. "Stop calling. I'm better. The fever went down, and I ate something. I just need to rest." And she hung up. Puzzled, Devlin hung up too. Later, she somehow found the strength to go to the bathroom and passed out. When Chaz came to and found herself on the bathroom floor, she panicked. She tried to get up and her head spun violently, so she lay flat. There was blood on the floor beside her head. This was really bad, she thought. She gathered her strength and crawled out to her bedroom. She needed help. There was no answer from Dr. Kinney as it was closed, and Debbie wasn't answering either. She called Devlin. "Hello?" "Dev," she croaked. "Chaz, is that you?" he asked. "Yes, could you please come? I'm sick and I fainted and hit my head. It's bleeding and I don't want to go to the hospital alone." "Is this another one of your games?" he asked coldly. "Please help me, Devlin. I'm afraid I'm going to pass out again, please." And she passed out. Devlin called her name, and there was no response. The crash of the phone cinched it for him, and he was on his way. When he got there, he pounded on the door with no response. Once he stopped panicking, he found the building manager who unlocked the door for him. He found her on the floor beside her bed. He scared himself, thinking the worst when she moaned. He called for an ambulance and stayed with her until help came. The emergency room doctor promptly diagnosed her with a concussion and food poisoning. She was severely dehydrated and was admitted. "Hi," said Devlin when Chaz was resting in a room. "Hi," she answered awkwardly. "Thank you for coming for me." "I'm just glad I could help. I was talking with the doctor caring for you, and he said that you could go home in 2 days. I know you don't have anyone to stay with you, so I'd like you to do your recuperating at my house." "Are you sure? I mean, you don't have to go out of your way for me." "Chaz, I'm sure. Just give Debbie a list of what you'll need from your apartment, and we'll take it from there. I'll go now so you can rest." He left quietly, leaving her in shock. Well, that's it for now. Please comment with a heart emoji if you feel Devlin is making amends. And if you are loving this story so far, smash that like button and subscribe.